The Golden State Warriors fan base finally has something to smile about after a long, frustrating offseason full of stalled negotiations and rumors going nowhere. For weeks, if not months, one of the biggest question marks hovering over the franchise has been what exactly they plan to do with Jonathan Kuminga. The young forward has shown flashes of brilliance, undeniable athleticism, and the potential to be a cornerstone in a new era. But the Warriors, stuck in a delicate balancing act between contending now and building for the future, found themselves paralyzed by their own demands. That is, until now. At long last, the Warriors have begun to show flexibility in their trade talks involving Kuminga. Reports are suggesting they've finally lowered their asking price, particularly when it comes to draft compensation. That one move could unlock everything. Up until this point, Golden State had been holding firm, seeking valuable draft picks as part of any potential sign-and-trade deal. And that stubborn approach, while understandable for a franchise trying to maximize value, might have actually been holding them back from improving the roster. But with that now shifting, the whole trade landscape around Kuminga suddenly feels alive again. The adjustment opens the door for more teams to re-enter the conversation or come forward with new interest. It's no longer just about who can offer the most future picks, but rather who can provide the kind of solid, rotation-ready pieces the Warriors desperately need to fill out their roster right now. And with Golden State already behind the eight ball in terms of off-season acquisitions, this pivot might be coming just in time. We've already seen some teams previously linked to Kuminga: the Kings, the Bulls, even the Suns. But now that the Warriors aren't hung up on first-round picks, other teams that may have felt boxed out of the bidding war earlier could suddenly throw their hats in the ring. The Heat, the Sixers, even the Celtics or Lakers could become surprise players in this saga. And depending on how serious these teams are about pushing for a title or revamping their core, Golden State might find themselves with more leverage than expected. One interesting name that surfaced recently was Derek White from Boston. Now, don't get it twisted. White is a very solid point guard. A reliable defender, can hit open shots, and knows how to play within a system. But for Golden State, he's not really addressing the needs they have. They already have Steph Curry running the show. They don't need another primary ball handler. What they need is size, athleticism on the wings, and guys who can make an impact without the ball. Derek White doesn't move the needle in that regard. So even though it might be a tempting name, it's not the right fit for what the Warriors are trying to accomplish. Now, shifting focus to a deal that does make a whole lot of sense: the Suns' offer. From the beginning of the offseason, that proposal felt like it was built on real basketball logic. We're talking about a package that includes Nick Richards, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, and even 3 second-round picks. Back in June or July, that might not have been enough to push things over the finish line. But now, with the Warriors softening their stance, that might just be the winning ticket. Let's break that down. Starting with Nick Richards, a young, physical center who doesn't need touches to be effective. The Warriors have lacked size in the paint for years. Looney is reliable but undersized. Draymond can still hold his own in small ball situations, but he's no longer the guy you want banging down low with Jokic, Embiid, or even Ayton for 35 minutes a night. Bringing in Richards gives you a body who can rebound, protect the rim, and just focus on doing the dirty work. He doesn't need plays called for him. Grab the board, kick it out to Steph or Clay. Simple basketball, but vital. Royce O'Neal is another piece that fits like a glove. 6'6", versatile defender, can hit the three, and brings that edge that Golden State's wing rotation has been missing since guys like Andre Iguodala or even Sean Livingston were regulars. Plug him next to Wiggins or in lineups with Steph and Clay, and you instantly get a defensive-minded presence who understands his role and doesn't need to dominate the ball. And then there's Ryan Dunn, a bit of a wild card in the deal. Not much is known about what he can do at the NBA level, but he's got upside, size, and could develop into something over time. You're not betting the house on him, but you're also not bringing in a total loss. As a bench piece, it's a smart investment. Add to that the 3 second-round picks Phoenix is willing to give up, and you start to see the makings of a well-rounded trade. Even though the Warriors would still be paying Kuminga that big money extension, reportedly around $30 million per year, the incoming salaries don't even come close to matching. Richards, O'Neal, and Dunn combined for roughly $17 million. That's value. That's flexibility. And most importantly, that's production now without tying up your future. But Phoenix isn't the only option. The Chicago Bulls still loom as a team that could jump back into the picture. Their package, which reportedly centered around Kobe White earlier in the summer, was also intriguing. White is a skilled guard, quick, can shoot, and has shown flashes of being more than just a role player. But here's the thing, he's on an expiring deal. And while that does offer some flexibility, it also carries risk. You trade for him, and if things don't work out, he walks and you're left with nothing. The Bulls, like many other franchises right now, are in a strange position. They've got a number of contracts coming off the books next summer. That means cap space, which is always valuable. But it also means they're not exactly in a stable place roster-wise. Still, a package centered around Kobe White, some younger pieces, and maybe one or two veteran role players could make sense if the Warriors decide to value offensive firepower over size and defense. And then there's the wild card in all of this, Josh Giddey. The Bulls have reportedly been trying to bring him back on a relatively modest deal, $88 million over 4 years. If they manage to land Kuminga as well, you're suddenly looking at a young duo with some serious upside. Giddey running the point, Kuminga on the wing, and a supporting cast of guys like Patrick Williams, Kevin Huerter, and Nikola Vucevic give Chicago a young, versatile lineup that could compete in the East and continue to grow together. From Golden State's perspective, though, it's all about time. The clock is ticking. Kuminga hasn't signed his qualifying offer yet, but that pen is inching closer and closer to the paper. October 1st is the official deadline, but there are reports the Warriors may pull that offer as soon as training camp opens. If that happens, it could create an even more urgent situation. You do not want this dragging out into the season. You do not want this looming over the locker room. The Warriors need clarity. They need to head into camp with a clear idea of who they are and what their rotation looks like. So this is the moment. This is where Golden State has to make their move. They need to re-engage with every team that's ever shown interest in Kuminga. Check the status of every previous offer. See what's still on the table. Maybe negotiate a tweak or two. But at the end of the day, they cannot afford to let this stretch into October. Because the longer this plays out, the more leverage they lose. And look, it's not just about Kuminga. It's about what the Warriors can do after the trade. If they clear that cap space, bring in those 3 solid pieces from the Suns, and still have room to fill out their bench, they can suddenly pivot from a stale, stagnant roster into something that looks like a real playoff contender again. Especially when you consider the number of solid veterans still sitting on the market, waiting for an opportunity. Guys like Malcolm Brogdon, Seth Curry, even Al Horford. Those are experienced players who know what it takes to win. You bring them in on minimum deals, round out the roster with savvy vets, and now you've got something brewing. The Warriors have spent the entire offseason mostly standing still. The same core, the same issues, the same holes in the rotation. But with this Kuminga deal, they have a real opportunity to shift the narrative, to fill out the bench, to bring in defenders, rebounders, and role players who can actually help Steph carry the load. Not just in the regular season, but when it really matters in the playoffs. The real challenge now for Golden State isn't just picking the best trade offer. It's making sure whatever deal they pull off actually sets the foundation for something sustainable. The Warriors aren't in a rebuild, but they're also not in a comfortable win-now situation like they were just a few years ago. This is the in-between stage, the murky middle where decisions become even more critical. Every move has to be calculated, every piece has to make sense, and every contract they bring in needs to be manageable, both financially and on the court. That's why a deal like the one from Phoenix seems so appealing. It doesn't just check the box of moving Kuminga. It potentially solves multiple problems at once. But if this front office has shown us anything, it's that they're not going to move unless the fit is nearly perfect. And that's the double-edged sword. While it's admirable to hold out for a move that fits your culture, your system, and your long-term vision, sometimes the perfect deal doesn't exist. Sometimes you have to accept a deal that simply makes you better now, even if it doesn't wow anyone on paper. The Phoenix trade isn't flashy. It's not going to dominate headlines or send shockwaves across the league. But it gives the Warriors bodies, defense, and depth, and right now that's worth more than hype. Golden State's current roster situation is fragile. They got around 9 players locked in, but beyond that, there's very little structure. You cannot go into training camp with that kind of uncertainty, especially not when the Western Conference continues to get better around you. The Lakers have gotten deeper. The Timberwolves are surging. The Nuggets are still the Nuggets. And teams like Sacramento, OKC, and even Houston are clawing at the door, hungry to prove themselves. Standing pat is not an option. That's why this Kuminga decision is more than just a trade. It's symbolic. It represents whether the Warriors are ready to evolve or whether they're still clinging to a version of themselves that just doesn't exist anymore. Kuminga, for all his potential, hasn't carved out a defined role in this system. And it's not entirely his fault. There were nights where he barely touched the floor, and when he did, he was often asked to fill roles that didn't suit his natural game. A freak athlete who thrives in transition, loves to attack, and has real defensive tools, he never quite found his rhythm in Steve Kerr's motion-heavy, read-and-react offense. That's not a knock on him or the system. It's just a mismatch. And if you're the Warriors and you're serious about optimizing the last few prime years of Steph Curry's career, then you can't afford to wait around hoping Kuminga figures it out. You need contributors now. You need guys who know who they are and what they bring every single night. Role players who understand spacing, who know when to rotate, who box out without being told. Guys who will help Steph, not wait for him to carry them. This is why the idea of targeting teams with more defined veteran options makes sense. The Suns, for all their own roster drama, have built a team full of players who can plug into different systems. Royce O'Neal knows how to play his role. He's defended the best wings in the league. He's hit big shots in the playoffs. You know what you're getting. Nick Richards, though still developing, gives you the kind of physicality and rim presence the Warriors just haven't had since the days of Andrew Bogut or even JaVale McGee. And while Ryan Dunn remains a mystery box, he's the kind of low-risk, high-reward gamble you want on the back end of your roster. And then you factor in those second-round picks. Now, to the casual fan, second-rounders may not seem like much. But to a team like Golden State, which has spent years over the tax and is trying to manage future flexibility, those picks are a lifeline. They give you opportunities to draft and develop inexpensive talent. And if you strike gold, even once, it's worth it. Just look at what Denver has done with their picks. Look at Miami. These teams know how to find value where others don't. So those second-rounders aren't throw-ins, they're assets. Now, let's not ignore the financial side of this either. If the Warriors give Kuminga the deal he's looking for, upwards of $30 million per year, that's a massive commitment for a player who hasn't proven he can carry that kind of load. And bringing back players who only account for $17 million total, that's a huge win in terms of cap management. You're cutting salary while improving your depth. That's rare. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. In what could be the most shocking twist of the NBA offseason, whispers are circulating that Kevin Durant, one of basketball's most formidable scorers, is on the verge of signing a jaw-dropping 4-year deal with the Golden State Warriors. While nothing has been officially confirmed, sources close to the star forward suggest that Durant, who has previously dazzled fans with his offensive wizardry and championship pedigree, may be ready to reunite with a team that already boasts a constellation of stars. The mere thought of Durant donning the Warriors' blue and gold again has sent ripples through the league. Analysts are scrambling to recalibrate predictions, while fans are buzzing with excitement and disbelief. Could this be the move that tips the balance of power in the NBA for years to come? With Golden State already possessing a roster brimming with talent, the addition of Durant could create a super team the likes of which the league hasn't seen since the last decade. Rumors indicate that negotiations have been intense but promising, with Durant reportedly drawn to the Warriors' system and their championship-winning culture. His potential return could not only rejuvenate the fan base, but also ignite old rivalries and stir the ever-present debate about the greatest team of this era. Social media has exploded with speculation, memes, and hot takes, with fans dissecting every possible scenario, from starting lineups to playoff matchups. Of course, in the world of sports, nothing is ever truly set in stone. Durant has a history of making moves that surprise even the most seasoned commentators, and insiders stress that until paperwork is signed, anything could happen. But the mere possibility of this 4-year partnership has already become a tantalizing story, one that could dominate headlines and water cooler conversations for weeks. If it comes to fruition, the NBA might be on the brink of witnessing a seismic shift that reshapes its very landscape. The country holds its breath. Could Kevin Durant really be back with the Warriors? Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.